Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to The Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Tailgate Ted, back in the mess hall, my man, Rally Captain.
Oh, man. What's up, Ted? We got 2 preseason games up underneath our belt. Man, let's talk about it.
I am so happy that for pretty much starter-wise, preseason is over. I'm still going to watch this Ravens game coming up because I hate the Ravens and I want to end their win streak. I think it's something absolutely ridiculous that they hang their hat on. But I'm curious to hear, the Chiefs game. What were your thoughts, man? One positive and one negative you're taking away from that Chiefs game that we just watched this past weekend?
Well, one positive I've got to say is I'm actually kind of proud of our offensive line, even though it's kind of a makeshift line. They didn't do too bad protecting. Actually, I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you 3. They didn't do too bad protecting Carson. Second, once again, we can't give the young man enough praise. Our rookie, the rookie number 8, look out. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And number 3, Taylor Heineke, Cam Sims connection. I don't know what they're going to do about that, but they better make something happen with that right there, bro. What say you?
I say Sabah is someplace just in light works and sparkles right now because you mentioned her boy. So every time Heineke does anything, I'll get a tweet from her, and it cracks me up. And for those of you that don't know, that are listening to the mess hall, Sabah is a regular caller in the DMV area to Russell and Medhurst, basically all the shows on the Team 980 and sometimes a 106.7 The Fan. Mm-hmm. And she is Taylor's number 1 supporter other than maybe his sister because he finally got off her couch. And anything that man does, Taylor could have been potty trained and Sabah would have known back then and she would have just high-fived him. I mean, she loves that guy so much. I don't get it, but he did have some nice passes to Cam Sims. One was a little dangerous. One got Cam's head knocked off, but it was still a good throw. But more importantly, Cam came back in there that next play, jumped right back up, and then scored a touchdown. And for those watching on YouTube, thank you. I'm going to cut that clip up and actually put it on our YouTube channel so people can see it because not everybody watches preseason. But man, that was a pretty throw.
Heck yeah, man. And so I have to say that, I listen to Sabah as well. And I'm like, all right, she makes a lot of valid points, but then there's some times when she goes a little far. But Sabah, I understand your passion. I really do. Trust and believe. I get it. Bro, we've got to get our defense together. And I know we're going to talk about it, but I'll let you bring it up, man, so we can. What else you want to talk about before I go off on my rant?
No, I hear you. And I guess I was going to try and be positive. I was going to try and channel my inner Rally and bring that up and basically talk about Brian Robinson because I cut up 5 of his runs on Monday, put them on Twitter. And those of you that have the Washington Gold, I guess, season ticket discount package that you get, you're able to watch the all 22 film on NFL.com. If anybody has any questions about it, hit me up. I'm happy to walk you through it. But I was able to cut it up and take a look at Brian Robinson's runs. And he just has a knack for falling forward. He's very patient. He's got vision and can set up his blocks. There are a couple. If you watch the end zone view where he is basically dipping his shoulders to the left, setting those linebackers up to make it look like he's going to cut that way, but then just juking back to the right with just a subtle body movement. And next thing you know, that lineman is now at the second level, engaging that backer, and he's busting up the hole for 9 yards. I mean, the way he runs, you can tell that this is his natural position. Last week, we talked about is AG RB3. And after watching Robinson this past week, I've got no doubt in my mind that he is. And he only got as many chances this week as he did versus Chiefs because J.D. McKissick was out and didn't play. So I don't want to not see AG on the field, but you only have so many spots and so many footballs around. I don't know what they're going to do with him other than being a primary kick returner, which he did have a chance to run if we would have had some better blocking up front. But since you went positive, I'm going to go with my glass half empty approach. I was pretty frustrated with Carson with his sack that he took. And I know it's being nitpicky, but it's what concerned me about Carson during training camp. What concerned you during one of our earlier episodes, saying he holds on to the ball way too long. And those that don't remember, I'll put it on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. Carson takes a ball, third down. We're in field goal range, right? He takes 6 seconds to try and get rid of that ball. Way too long. I went to go back and look, thinking it was a coverage sack. And there were really only 2 guys on the route downfield, weren't open. But if you look again, Antonio Gibson lined up in the slot, wide open. Carson just didn't get to him. And he hit his progressions versus the Panthers. So he regressed a little bit on this one play, which was frustrating to see because our first team offense has not scored a single point versus a first team defense. And I'm not worried because we're not game planning and we're not specifically putting in plays we're going to call week 1 versus the Jags. But it would have been nice to at least get a couple of points with that first team out.
Yeah, man. What it does is it puts you in the mind state of here we go again. And the last thing that I ever want to be a part of is here we go again. But it just seems that way. I agree with you. Carson did throw the ball down the field a couple times. And as Doc put it, now they know we're alive type of deal. Well, okay. I mean, I get it, Doc. And Doc's my man. My man 50 grand. I can appreciate that. But we would love to see a completion. That way they really would have known that we were alive and they could think about something. But hey, man, it's a work in progress. And I feel though this year we may not see everything we want to see. I'm hoping that they freaking open up the tool bag and pull all the tools out. I really am. Will it happen? I don't know. But if I was on the hot seat, like everyone is saying that certain people are, you would think that tool bag will be wide open and letting it all hang out.
And I really think it's going to be because you finally have a quarterback, no offense to Heineke, that can actually make every throw in the playbook. So Scott Turner really has no excuse but to open that tool bag, if you will. And those that are frustrated with Carson, and I was earlier on in training camp because he was missing air. And preseason wise, he showed me a lot that Panthers game. He might have taken a step back this one, but for fans that are glass half empty for, just like me, we had Josh Johnson, Mark Sanchez, Case Keenum, Alex Smith, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Garrett Gilbert. I mean, just the list of quarterbacks goes on. I'm missing and skipping a bunch in there because the list is too long and this is a short podcast. But he is better than any of those guys we have had since Kirk Cousins. So I'm excited that he's QB1. I know you want to see something with Heineke and Cam Sims. I honestly hope we don't ever see anything with Heineke and Cam Sims this year, unless it's some freak gadget play where Heineke's coming in doing some wildcat stuff, because that means Carson got hurt or something happened. We need to see if Carson is going to be QB1 next year.
Well, what I mean by that connection is this. Yes, there is a Heineke Sims connection, but I want to see a Wentz Sims connection. That's what I want to see. We know that those two have moxie, and I won't take that away. But I feel as though you need to put Cam Sims first team. He needs to be first team. I think he's the largest receiver that we have, other than Thomas, who obviously isn't going to be himself. So, to me, if you know he's a sure-handed guy, then get plays to him. As far as AG is concerned, I've always said, okay, put that man in the slot. There's no reason why you shouldn't have 100% of your talent on the field 100% of the time. I don't care about, well, he looked good in camp or he looked good. No, I want to see guys who look good in preseason. Yeah, I said it. I want to see guys who look good in preseason, who toted the mail in preseason, because the ones who look good in preseason, I feel, and this is just rally captain, I feel as though they're going to be the ones who are going to look good in real game situations. So put them on the field, find a way to make it happen, because at this point, we are starving. You know how out west all of the lakes and riverbeds are drying up? Well, that's how we are as fans. We're drying up and we need to be quenched with some type of water, man. So give it to us. Stop holding back. And one thing they said that doggone Wentz could do was throw the ball down the field. I have yet to see him technically really throw that ball up and open that arm up down the field. That's what I want to see. You said he could do it. Why wouldn't you do it in preseason? And I don't want to hear, well, they're not really going to show them what you got. Bull crap. Because the same thing that you do now, you will do later. Open the damn thing up, man. We talk about Heineke. He can't throw the ball long. All right, I'll give him that. You brought someone in to throw the ball long, and I don't want to see it on some highlight reel when no one's covering somebody. That's bull, man. Show me in the game. Preseason is the time to do what we always say it. Preseason is the time to air it out. Show what you can and can't do. Let everybody know so that you can put it together. I didn't see that. And that's what I want to see.
You're not going to. I mean, that's just the way coaches are nowadays. And I was at camp maybe 12 days this year, and he did air it out. He did hit a bunch of long bombs on man-to-man coverage. He hit Terry on a bunch of beautiful passes, and Terry was going up against Kendall Fuller, our best cornerback. But I agree with you, when Wentz aired it out during preseason, he underthrew those balls. If you go back and look, the receiver had to hold up and wait. And to me, that's timing. That's not knowing your receiver's speed and not getting a chance to do it as much in practice, because in practice, they really didn't do it. And talking about the team putting a highlight up, those that don't know, I'll see if I can find it when we go back and cut this up. The team actually put up a video clip of Wentz hitting Jahan Dotson deep, burning a wide receiver. But those that don't know, that weren't there, they were just doing an install, and the defense was just walking through. They weren't trying to cover Jahan or do anything. I feel bad for the Commanders defender that basically looked like he was posterized, because they weren't even actually trying to defend it. So it was very misleading when the Commanders put that on their Twitter timeline, saying, I think it was just a fire emoji with Wentz throwing to Jahan. It wasn't a real play. They were just installing something, and Jahan made a nice catch, and he made a nice throw against no coverage. But I did see it. Yeah, I know. And I did see it versus coverage. And going back to your Cam Sims point, we need to see him. We need to see him in situations on the field, in red zone situations where he can use that body, in down and distance situations where it's tough yards and he can use that body. But you only have 5 positions that you can put out there that aren't offensive linemen and a quarterback. So you're not taking Terry off the field for Cam. You're not taking Jahan off the field. You're not taking Curtis Samuel off the field. You're not going to take J.D. McKissick off the field. Let's assuming it's a third down. And at that point, you're not going to take Logan Thomas off the field for Cam Sims. So he's just going to be odd man out depending on situation.
And see, that right there is where we make our mistake. You're not going to see him because of this. You're not going to see him because well, how about switch it up and let's see him? You see what I'm saying? We're in this mindset of, well, you can't take him off the field because of Jahan, or you can't take him. Bull crap, bro. We don't have anything to lose at this point. And I'm tired of people putting those type of scenarios out there. You don't know until you know. And right now, we don't know.
I don't agree with it. We don't know. As a fan base, we don't know. But Cam Sims' knock has been he does not practice well. Ever since he's been here, that's why he's not getting playing time. He does not practice well for the coaches. And we talked about this before. You play like you practice. And he shows highlights in games, and he's also showed lowlights in games where he's just dropped balls and he's just been flat out wide open. He has not shined in practice over a Curtis or a Terry or a Jahan. Those are just flat out facts.
Okay. Well, the facts are also who doesn't practice very well? Someone who we just signed for $28 million, but yet he's there.
Who else is going to be there?
We're trusting him to get the job done.
But who else are you going to put in his place? You're not going to take Taylor over Carson Wentz's job. That's not going to happen.
I'm saying, man, if you know someone doesn't, as Allen Iverson said, doesn't practice well, but he shows up in the game, then I am, for one, the one who will say, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on you, young man. And here's the other thing. He's been in the league, 3 years now? So if he wasn't that, then why is he still playing? Because they know the kid has something. So at some point in time, take your personal feelings aside and put the young man in the game. And if by chance, you give him that opportunity in the game and he messes up, then you pull him. But from what I've seen, he's shown up. Everybody's gonna miss some balls, Ted. Everybody is. All right. But go ahead.
Oh, he will get in the game. I've got no doubt, but it's going to be situational. He is not going to start versus these other guys. And you're 100% right. He's 6'5". We basically have the Smurfs again with 10, 1, and 17 out there. So we need some size, and he's going to get a chance. He's going to be a red zone threat. I just don't see him coming in unless one of the other guys is banged up, one of the other guys is tired from a previous rep. And I want to see Cam out there. I'm rooting for him because he's got that big body where he has a chance to use that. He reminds me of Henry Ellard, for those old heads that, watch Redskins games. Whenever you threw Henry a pass, it was for a first down because he used his body to run that route and shield the defender off of him. And Cam
Ted,
can do that.
Ted, what have they always said, bro? What have they always said? Well, we just didn't start off fast enough. What if he's the guy that helps you start off fast? That's all I'm saying, man. At this point,
hear you, man.
At this point, let's try something different. Now
They are with Jahan Dotson. They are with Curtis Samuel, who didn't play last year. That's the something different in their eyes.
Okay.
And I hate to say it, but there's a stigma in the NFL when you are drafted or undrafted. Cam was undrafted. He was an undrafted free agent in 2018. It is not a correct stigma. Doc Walker is all about you put the people in the game that perform. It doesn't matter where they were selected. Agreed. I don't think this staff looks at it the same way.
Obviously.
I mean, they took Jahan because he has a high floor, whereas he can start now and immediately impact now. I hope we're arguing about Cam Sims breaking records this season. I am a big fan of his. It's just, he's got a total of 41 receptions in 3 years. That's it. 41 catches in 3 years. I hope he gets a chance to do more and this offense gets a chance to spread it out. I just don't know if we're going to see it other than in that red zone. But speaking of red zone threats, our boy Logan Thomas was cleared off the PUP list. So Logan is back. Sir. He's practicing. He's ahead of schedule. How excited are you to see Logan back out on that practice field?
I'm excited, but there's a big part of me that's still kind of like, and I'm not a trainer, so I don't know all the hoops and jumps and whistles that he had to go through. I really don't know, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, it's cringe type of thing, man. Yes, I want him back there. I want him back out there. And I know that they said technically by week 1 or 2, he could be back. I'm excited, but it's like Alex Smith. Do you remember when Sam Donaldson jumped on his leg and everybody was like, no? And Aaron Donald said, that leg is strong. At that point, we knew, okay, he's good. I don't want anything to happen. It's just, let me see, is it really battle tested just yet? If you know what I mean. I don't want anything bad to happen to him, but at the same time, I'm nervous, bro.
I know what you mean, and we all are. I mean, I remember that game that Alex came back, fans weren't allowed in because it was 2020. And the camera cut to his wife and just her reaction because they could obviously find her because there was no one there other than players' families. And she was just kind of cringing and not covering her face. But, the point of we were all worried what was going to happen. The good news is during Logan's press conference, he explained how he is stronger now in his leg than he was last year. And for those that don't know, he suffered a torn ACL, MCL, and lateral meniscus during the Raiders game last season. And when I was in Vegas, you were in Vegas, I remember watching him lying on that field, just thinking, you got to be kidding me. How long is he going to be gone for? But during his presser this week, he described a pressure plate test where the guys push off a plate, jump up in the air, and then land back down. He did the same test last year prior to the injury. He's actually recording numbers stronger now than he did last year when he wasn't hurt. So that's at least some good news, but you never know how you're going to take that first hit. And Logan's not going to play during preseason, thank God, because we don't need to see him out there.
No.
But week 1 versus the Jags, he's definitely going to be there, is my guess. And that's just me putting this out there. Coach hasn't said it. Logan hasn't said it, but he's been operating in individual drills. When the team was going over special teams drills, he and Carson were throwing, catching, running routes, trying to build that rapport. Logan didn't get a chance to go out to California with the rest of the guys, obviously, because he was still rehabbing. So he's trying to build that rapport with Carson. And we all know how Carson loves his tight ends.
Yeah.
I mean, he made them a ton of money in Philly and in Indy. So I'm hoping, if you get a chance and you do fantasy football, I'm picking up Logan if he's out there, because I think he's going to have a heck of a season, on top of the fact that he's just a stud in general and knows the position very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's evident that he loves his tight ends because what's the rookie? Rogers, is that his name? I believe Rogers is the rookie's name. I look at how many times he threw him the ball in the Panthers game, as well as he tried to give him the ball in the last game that we played, so against Kansas City. So obviously that's where he likes to go. That's his safety blanket. It's like Witten to the Cowboys. That's their safety blanket. I mean, Witten can be covered, but they'll still throw him the ball and he'll catch it. So I know, but hey, man, the mere fact is the dude was money. So if somebody's money, you got to give them their props, even though you don't like it. Point blank, period. All right. So boo me if you wish, but the truth is the truth. Get over your feelings.
No, I know you're talking about Armani Rogers, and he definitely he likes that tight end as his safety valve, as his somewhat check down in those routes. So I'm curious to see, because a lot of Jay Gruden's offense was outside in. I'm curious what Scott Turner's real offense is going to be. And when you're looking through progressions, where is that tight end going to be for Wentz in those progressions? But speaking of just basically this past week, and we kind of jumped ahead a little bit, one thing that did frustrate me, that does concern me, is our first team defense. They were 31st in the league last year on third downs, right? They gave up 48.47% on third down. We lost Landon Collins. I think he might still be a free agent. He's not coming here. Commanders fans, stop holding your breath. Tim Settle walked. Matt Ioannidis walked. We did not bring in a big name free agent. We basically have all the same pieces from last year. I'm concerned because these guys don't look improved at all to me. They have given up 24 points in 4 possessions versus the Panthers and the Chiefs starters, and they've yet to force a single punt. Am I freaking out, or is it warranted?
It's a little bit of both. Let's call it what it is. A lot of people want to hide behind the guys of his preseason, but at the same, and it's vanilla. Well, at the same time, no. This is defense where you headhunt. So I don't need a package installed. This is mano a mano. What are you going to be able to do against the person in front of you? Are you going to let him walk over you, or are you going to walk over him? And maybe the mentality is, hey, it's preseason. I want to get out of here healthy. I'll do what I got to do to make myself, not look bad, but I'm not going to look good either. But it's a mediocre type of attitude. I don't want to think that way, but sometimes it feels that way. And guys that are listening on defense, Payne, Allen, I'm not talking about you. So don't take it this way. This is just what it looks like. All right. And I know you guys are in the wood, in the thick of it, doing what you got to do. But sometimes it looks like it's not happening. And why isn't it happening? I don't know. Couldn't tell you that. But we want to see you guys get to the quarterback. We want to see you guys put pressure. And maybe, like I said, hey, it's preseason and just your mind just isn't there, But one thing that we all heard, boy, this defense really looks good. Well, I think it was our third or fourth episode when I said, of course, the defense is gonna look good because A, they kind of know the plays. B, the offensive line isn't going to go 100%. It's one of those things that we talked about. When you have a joint practice, you can take that frustration out on somebody else and truly see where you are. Truly, because that other person is biting for a spot, no different than you are, versus your brother is kind of like, all right, man, 85%, right? Check, check. And now here we are. These guys are going 100%. And in your mind, you're still in that 85 percentile. And sometimes it shows. So maybe this first game against Jacksonville, they'll click the switch and they'll be able to go balls to the wall 100% if they weren't going 100%. So we'll see.
So I don't know if I agree with you on the 100% assessment. And Rivera was pissed during his press conference after that Chiefs game, calling guys out, saying that it comes down to discipline and technique. Last year, we all saw Chase and Montez do it, where they just ran outside their lanes, where they didn't keep gap discipline, where you had quarterbacks just simply stepping up to a spot in the pocket where they just left empty. Casey Toohill came in and a couple other guys last year and played within the system and did a lot better. Now, Rivera's press conference after the Chiefs game, he called Toohill out. He called Montez out and a couple of the other guys out because they did what they did last year. And I don't know if it's muscle memory from what Sam Mills used to be teaching or what, but they got themselves out of position. Rivera was pissed off because they didn't stick to their blocks. They didn't stay where they were supposed to. And I'm sorry, but you Commanders fans out there that said, oh, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's okay. That's loser talk. You play to win the game. I don't care who you're going up against. You are playing to win that game. And if you can't measure yourself up against a Super Bowl contender this year and you think it's just okay, then what the hell are you watching for? Because I'm not hoping to watch just for a draft pick. I'm hoping to watch for postseason, which a lot of people have us making. But what does postseason mean if you're just going to sit there and curl up into a little ball once we get to the actual postseason because you can't compete with real contenders? Now, I'm going to play a clip from Del Rio's press conference from after the Panthers game real quick.
Third downs were an issue last year, and then the first team defense gave up 3 straight to start against Carolina. What was your reaction to that, and how can you guys tighten that up so it's not as much of a problem this season?
My reaction is not to overreact, but I didn't like it, so sometimes things go like that. But for us, it's about getting to work, understanding why, and there were 3 different cases of what transpired and why, and correct it and move on. So, like I said, a lot of good energy going into what needs to be done. We've certainly identified it. We want to be a defense that starts fast. Letting them get 3 first downs on third down once we've got them to third down is not starting fast. So that's something we've identified as a must do, and we'll keep tabs on that as we go.
So talking about starting fast, Mahomes didn't play the entire half. He had 162 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that Del Rio interview was from Wednesday of last week. You mentioned how they didn't game plan, and this not me trying to set you up, but listening to B. Mitch and Finley, Brian Mitchell went back and watched the game. I went back, watched the game. That's a flat out lie if the Commanders tell you they didn't game plan. And I'm going to play you a quick clip from Patrick Mahomes' press conference after he whooped our ass.
How that play evolved and what it says about your trust in Justin.
Yeah, it's it comes with the reps, man. Luckily enough for us, Spags has a lot of different blitzes, and sometimes there's guys open, and I have to kind of trust those guys to be in the spots kind of quicker than normal. And so we've kind of done that over the training camp, and they gave me the old fire zone blitz where they dropped the big guys and brought the little guys, which you don't see a lot in the preseason, so it got me. And I was able to throw it to a spot, and Watson did a great job of getting to that spot on time and making a big-time catch. And I think the next step is you got to get out of that tackle and get in the end zone.
On that play specifically, because like you mentioned, the blitz is a little bit unique. It seemed like you guys still protected it pretty well. In fact, on all of those plays, can you just speak to the length of time that the offensive line was today against a good front?
No, I mean, the offensive line played tremendous today. That's the first thing I talked about when I came to the sideline after that second drive is those guys, they blocked. That's a really good defensive line. And they blocked and gave me a ton of time. And, I mean, even there was times where I was scrambling. I would only scramble because there wasn't stuff open downfield. I mean, the pockets were amazing. I was patting it 2-3 times. And, I mean, if they block like that, we're going to be a hard offense to stop because, I mean, when you have that much time in the pocket, usually good things happen.
So, obviously, it's the Chiefs. I get it. But we keep hearing about these first-round studs. Allen, Payne, Sweat, Chase, whenever he comes back, maybe by Halloween, who knows. But at a certain point, when do you start to just get overly concerned? Because yes, in 2020, they did well, but it was against Nick Mullins and Ben DiNucci and just scrub quarterbacks and bad teams. Yes, we have an easier schedule, but it's the same thing for the past 3 years. And someone called into the Junkies earlier this week, said, if they fire Jack Del Rio, what are they going to do? Is Rivera going to take reins? And JP Finley chimed in on his show saying he can't see them letting Del Rio go. But you let go of Sam Mills. Who else is next? To me, it's Del Rio. His head's got to get chopped to light a fire under these guys because talent is not the issue. It's maybe not getting across to the players. Maybe it's scheme. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, who knows, bro? But obviously, I guarantee you, if you took the front four that we had and let's say took them to Green Bay or took them to Kansas City or another team, something tells me that they would be coached differently, or there will be a different type of technique brought to them, some shape, form, or fashion. They just wouldn't be mediocre, if you will, even though there are times when they do have flash. So if you say, okay, if it's not the players, it's not the scheme, there's only one other thing that's left, bro, and that's the coach. Now, a lot of people say that Del Rio has old coaching techniques, that this is a newer league and those old coaching techniques don't fly anymore. Well, if that's what the denominator is, then sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So you tell me.
Del Rio's saying he's not overreacting, but Rivera basically somewhat contradicting that. And this was from Rivera's press conference yesterday. And those that don't know, it's Tuesday, August 23rd that Riley and I are recording this.
Overall play, I'd say if there's one thing that is concerned, it's the pass rush. You know, we have to be disciplined, you know, and we have to understand what our role is. You know, if we have a specific call on, you're the edge guy, set the edge, don't give up the edge. And that's probably the biggest thing that, you know, when you look at the tape, you see it, and that's the thing that frustrates and disappointing. You know, we have to understand who we're playing against. I mean, you know, this was probably one of the elite mobile quarterbacks that has the ability to move sideways and throw off of different platforms. I mean, you know, we had two guys bearing down on him. He throws the ball sidearm between the two of them for a completion. And that's the frustrating part as well.
And there may be 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that can make the throws that Mahomes did, but they game planned for Mahomes. They blitzed Mahomes. You heard him say they brought a double fire blitz, things you don't see in preseason. So them telling you that they weren't trying to go all out is just a lie. It's like that Twitter video that they put out there with Dotson not being covered, getting that touchdown pass. It's just, they're not giving you all the information. And I know Del Rio said he wasn't concerned. Rivera said he is. And I am too. Hope is not a strategy that I want in life or for my football team. And I really think they are hoping that things get better versus the Jaguars.
No, you can't hope. It's going to take will, grit, and determination. And for everyone who thinks that the Jags are going to be a pushover, I think that they will be a little easier. Just hear me out on this. I think that they're going to be a little easier, but then I don't know about you, but I've been watching Hard Knocks, and they're going to run to a buzzsaw against Detroit. That's what I see, straight up.
I haven't been catching Hard Knocks just because I don't have HBO. So that's my fault because I spend way too much money on NFL premium and all other fun stuff. But
Gotcha.
I don't think Jacksonville is going to be easy. I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to come out with Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson used to be the coach of the Eagles, for our listeners that don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Would always game plan and scheme and kick the Redskins' ass whenever we played him.
Yeah.
He left the league basically because of what he did versus us, where he benched Jalen Hurts in 2020 and gave us that game. And we snuck in the playoffs. That was the last time he coached a game.
Yeah.
To me, this is a revenge game for Doug Peterson, meaning that he's coming back to prove something because we were the team that technically got his ass canned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to have a game plan with Trevor Lawrence that is going to be so far out of left field that Del Rio's head's going to spin. And JP Finley, a couple others are saying the NFL wants the Commanders to go 2-0 with this schedule, putting the Jaguars and the Lions there. If fans think that we're going to go 2-0 out the gate, I'm sorry, but you haven't been watching Hard Knocks and you're just got a really bad case of Ashburn syndrome. I think the Jags are going to be tough. And the fact that it's only a 3.5 point spread right now, that just means you're getting it because of home field advantage. And Jags fans aren't going to travel. If it was going to be that easy, that spread would be a lot higher than 3.5.
Well, they're also looking at what we've shown in preseason, which it really hasn't been a lot. I mean, like you said, if you go by what you think or how you feel, or man, they look like they could, then it'll be different. But right now, they're going with what they see, and everybody right now is still kind of shocked, if you will, because all we've heard is these guys are going to be this way, and we put them up here, and then when we put them up, we put the bar above our heads really high because we know what we have, and then when they don't perform, it sinks. And that's where I see us right now, where we are starting to, even though it's preseason, people say don't panic, that bar is starting to go a little bit lower, bro. It really is. And now, as fans, we're saying, wow, are we going to be able to beat the Jaguars? That's where we are right now. And we're not going to get a good sample because this Saturday because they're not playing. Starter-wise.
Yeah.
Well, see, and see, I disagree with that, bro. I feel at least a series, man. I feel it's a series. You got to keep those guys going. That's just me. I don't get paid millions of dollars. I'm just a fan.
But then there are those coaches that don't have their starters play any games. I mean, who was the quarterback for the Chargers? What's his name that we should have drafted instead of Chase?
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing a blank right now. He doesn't take any snaps during the preseason.
He's proven.
but he wasn't proven when they picked him up. They
Wait.
just didn't give him any snaps.
He took snaps. He took snaps his rookie year before they knew, what was it? Tyrod Taylor got hurt. I think that's who got hurt when they injected him his lungs and pierced his lung. He took snaps then, and he was.
Well, I'm talking about the Chargers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert. Herbert wasn't. Taylor wasn't. Tyrod wasn't on the Chargers, was he?
Yeah, he got it. He's the one who was all said and done. He was the starter. First game, he was a starter, and he was having some type of issue, lung issue or something, or pain, and they injected him, and
Yep, I remember right.
The needle went too deep and pierced his lung, and he sued him. But now he's playing for somebody. I don't know who it is now, but yeah. So he took snaps then.
He's on the Giants now, by the way. But yeah, no, yeah. I hear you. It's just, okay, maybe that's a bad example. There are other starting quarterbacks in this league that don't take snaps. There are other starters that don't take snaps. There's a lot of stuff that happens during camp and practice. But then again, some of those teams might be playing against, was it the Dolphins and the Bucks that were fighting constantly? I don't remember who was practicing versus the Buccaneers, but I remember seeing on NFL Network that they were constantly getting into fights with that team that came into town.
All out brawl. Yeah. Well, but see, okay, once again, Ted, you know the deal, bro. When you have a joint practice, you can see where you are, minus the fights.
Yeah.
Technically, we don't know where we are. And if anybody says they know where we are, then I'd like to know what you're smoking. I don't want any of it, but I want to know what you're smoking or you drinking. Because technically, we don't know where we are. If we did, we would have seen different things, man. And I said, okay, so are we trying to go back to 2010 with RG or 2012 with RG when they didn't really show anything in preseason? Is that what we're doing? Well, we don't want to show what Wentz can do, and because the thing about it is, Philadelphia knows what he can do. Indianapolis knows what he can do. So why not go ahead and just do it in preseason? Throw a couple long balls, put it out there, air it out there. Because once again, you said it, you play how you practice, and it showed when he didn't have enough air under those balls, man.
It's not the long ball. It's the route combination. It's what your linemen are doing during that they just don't want to put on film for another defensive coordinator.
I got you, Ted. But the fact of the matter is, you said it yourself, bro. He threw the ball in the receiver couldn't track it. Whether the receiver couldn't track it, he was supposed to throw the ball more outside than inside. That's everything that comes with reps, real-time reps, not against your buddy reps.
I agree. And I'm not saying the defense is giving them a pass during practice, because trust me, they're not. The defense, the way they practice against the other guys, it's basically they're going all out. William Jackson wants to pick that ball off. Kendall Fuller, they take pride in shutting Terry down to the point of they are trash talking each other. But I know you're about to jump in. I do agree with you, though. You cannot truly test your talent, and it was the Titans that were practicing against the Bucks until you play against another color jersey, because you know what your teammates are going to run because you see it day in, day out in practice. So it is not the same, and there is no one to blame but Riverboat Ron in this case, because he said earlier on, we talked about it, he wants to practice against another team. And then all of a sudden, they're not practicing against another team. And I don't know if it was just not cost effective to fly the team to Kansas City and practice versus the Chiefs, just like it wasn't cost effective to go to Richmond. I don't know why they're not practicing against the Ravens, considering it's right up 95. I'll drive a bus up 95 and take them up there myself if they don't want to hire a bus driver. But they got no one to blame but themselves for not being properly prepared for week one. And that is what I'm upset about. And that's what frustrates me with Del Rio, with this coaching staff, and with this team in general. They are not putting themselves in a situation to be successful and win.
Yeah. And it's one thing, no matter what you say, I know that William Jackson wants to pick the ball. I know that Fuller wants to pick the ball. I know it. But at the same time, you still have that, in a sense, relaxed feeling because it's practice. I want you to be under the lights and that sphincter is tight and you're drawn up. That's what I want to see. Make it happen then. And then you'll show me something. Now, this could all be for naught, Ted. September 11th, man, we could be at FedEx Field and they're just airing the ball out like nobody's business. And we're like, what the hell? Remember that? What was it? That was who do we have the quarterback against Philly? That first opening day against Philly, and we were beating Philly, I think 21-0. I forgot who our quarterback was. Was it Fitzpatrick?
What year was this?
It wasn't Fitzpatrick. It was like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And Deshaun Jackson said, no, it was longer than that. Deshaun Jackson said, I knew we were going to come back and win because that's the mentality that those guys had. What quarterback did we have at that time? I don't remember, but nevertheless, I think McLaurin may have been a rookie. We were up 21-0 at half in Philly. And I was talking cash trash in the stands. And the Philly fans just had, for once in their lives, they did not give me any backlash. But who had the last laugh? They did, because they came back and torched our butts. Because Deshaun caught 2 deep balls, I want to say. And I don't know what quarterback we had, but nevertheless.
It was Alex Smith.
That was Alex Smith?
I mean, if you're talking 2018, it would have been Alex.
No, I don't think it was Alex Smith. But nevertheless, we threw 2 deep balls, caught them, touchdowns. I was like, oh, yeah, this is what it needs to be. So I said all that to say this. Maybe, and hopefully the result will be different, but maybe they come out the box throwing just like they did against Philadelphia back a couple years back. I love to see it. So if this is what it takes to get all the pundits and all the podcasters talking about what you're not showing us and what you're not doing, then go ahead, do it, Commanders. Do it. And prove all of us wrong.
I hope so, man. I really do, because I need to see it. Because I don't believe in Rivera. I'm on the record in that. I don't trust the guy. I don't think he's a good coach. Let me get that wrong. I think he's a good coach. I don't think he's a good executive. And unfortunately, he's doing both here. And I think he's got too much on his plate.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, hope is not a strategy. And right now, we are hoping that our first team offensive line is going to be able to protect Carson Wentz. We're hoping that all of these guys, let's see, Chase Rouillet, Charles Leno, Sam Cosmi, Trey Turner, Andrew Norwell, who have not played together at all, who have not all practiced together, are going to be able to protect Carson Wentz. But instead of hearing that from you and me, let's bring in Will Montgomery. Will, former Washington Redskins center, played with the team. Let's get his thoughts on how this Commanders offense is going to do. What's going on, everybody? I want to welcome former Washington Redskins center, Will Montgomery, to the DMV Mess Hall. Will played 10 years in the NFL. Drafted by the Panthers, played for the Jets, most importantly, the Redskins. Then he had a career with the Broncos and the Bears. So I used to do a show at Fox 5 where I would come in Sunday mornings, maybe 6:30 in the morning. And I think Will would get there maybe before me or just a little bit after, and would do a show called Redskins Game Time. So that's how I got to know Will. Really appreciate him joining Rally and I here on the Mess Hall. We wanted to have him on to, talk about his area of expertise. The Washington Commanders offensive line. Will started 54 games at center, 10 games at right guard, and 7 games at left guard. And Will, I wanted to ask you, this offensive line for the Commanders.
Hold on, let me stop you right there. When we were doing the show on the Fox 5 pregame show, normally you were bringing me in like a nice slab of prime rib that had been sous vide overnight. There were some good appetizers. So right when we start our conversation, I'm already starting to salivate, and I'm just wondering where's like the rib. Even though we're doing this over Zoom, I mean, I just want to go and eat some prime rib or something right now.
If you come out to a tailgate, I guarantee I will give you the best meal that you've had in a long time. How about that?
Well, I think that we're planning on at least coming to the alumni game at a minimum. So we'll have to touch base before we get to that game.
That sounds good, man. It'll be good to see you out there. It's been some time. When I texted you earlier, I was bummed I missed you at training camp on the 15th when you came. I know that You got to see Chris Russell and a bunch of the other guys, but I ended up missing you out there that day.
Yeah, well, it's nice having Tim Hightower as the director of alumni relations, as I blocked for Tim. So now Tim is sending out the invites for some of these things. He gets the alumni out there, and some of these invites include golfing events. So it's nice to, kind of golf at Creighton Farms Country Club, or Army, Navy, or Trump, or some of the other nice golf courses in the area. And then also, we just had a charity event this past weekend, handing out back to school supplies for some of the needy children at FedEx Field. Also enjoy, handing out some turkeys around Thanksgiving time. So it's nice. I think Tim Hightower is doing a great job with the alumni as well.
Tim really is doing a great job with the alumni. To hear that they're bringing all these Washington legends back, to make sure that fans know that the Commanders is not a expansion team, that we have a rich history, and to tap into that history and getting all of you all out there. He's really done a good job to do that. And I saw that he did something at DC Prime earlier during, I think, OTAs, and had like a nice steak dinner with some of the older guys and the newer guys. And man, if those walls could talk, I can only imagine the stories that Doc Walker and some of you all were sharing with those guys.
Yeah, well, I didn't make that episode at DC Prime, but I did do a couple episodes of Check Please with Julie Dollinson and Logan Paulson over there. So that was, doing a couple of those. Whenever you want to invite me out to eat red meat and talk football, that's right up my wheelhouse. And speaking of Logan Paulson, I know he's all over the media circuit as well. He's doing a little high school coaching with me also here locally at Independence. We also conducted a couple camps in the off season for the high school kids as well.
Well, next time you're doing one of those camps, you let me know, and I'm happy to bring out the rig that Kerrigan hooked me up with and cook up some food for the kids.
Well, you had me at ribs, so yeah. Next time we have a little thing going on, we're gonna get some food going too.
That sounds good, man. That sounds good. Well, I wanted to ask you about our offensive line, current Commanders offensive line. Last season, Pro Football Focus ranked them 6th out of all the lines out there, but it's dramatically changed since then. We've lost All-Pro Brandon Sheriff. We've lost Eric Flowers, who's actually still on the market as a free agent. We now have, a couple of new guys in Trey Turner that are on the team, and Andrew Norwell, both of them who were drafted by the Panthers and played under Ron Rivera and Coach John Matsko. But my concern, and a lot of fans' concerns, is the fact that the starting or projected starting offensive line have yet to practice together during training camp and have yet to take a snap together all preseason. How difficult is it to get that rapport with your brothers when you're not getting a chance to really line up and be in the trenches?
Well, I like how you brought up the Pro Football Focus ranking there in the top 5 or 6. That reminds me of the 2012 season when Pro Football Focus had me ranked as the number 5 center in the NFL, although I don't remember being paid as the number 5 center in the NFL. So, all these rankings are good. At the end of the day, it comes down to the entire team execution, turnovers, penalties, everything else. I as well, I went back and watched a little bit of tape. I checked out the depth chart. I mentioned I haven't seen Leno out there at left tackle a ton. Leno and I actually played together on the same team in Chicago Bears. So in 2015, I played with Leno when he's the left tackle in the Bears when he was on his way up. Like you mentioned, both of your guards are out. Your center has been in and out as well a little bit, through the preseason. And it kind of reminds me, I think it was maybe the 2013 preseason, when I was in there at center and we had Laribas and Adam Geddes in the entire preseason at guards, because, Lichtensteiger was coming off a knee and Chester, who knows what he had going on, maybe a little hamstring or something. So I think that for the veteran guys, it's not as big of a deal. I think it's more of an issue for younger players. As you mentioned, these big guards have a history, with the head coach, with the Panthers, so they kind of understand what the head coach wants to do. They understand the schemes, and they understand the O-line coach, Matsko. So I'm not really concerned at all for the veterans. More reps are better, yes, but maybe with these younger guys or these second teamers getting more reps in preseason, that might be a blessing, because there's only 3 preseason games. So the reps are getting cut anyways. And they have, can see those live bullets coming in action, and they are actually playing pretty well. I think, I'm seeing runs of 8-9 yards. I'm seeing I'm seeing protection fairly well. Occasionally, I think in the last game, there may have been a sack in the second quarter, but I think that was more of a coverage sack, really. The 3 or 4 seconds, and then your quarterback steps up to the left and takes a sack. That ball really should be out in about 2.8, 2.9, maybe 3 seconds. Much more than that, then kind of you put on the quarterback and on the coverage unit, not really the O-line. And also, when we talk about sacks and things of that nature, we want to make sure that quarterback is stepping up to 7 yards. I remember in the 2014 year when I played with the Broncos and a guy we know as Peyton Manning. I was fortunate enough to snap the ball to him for half a season, and he, in the gun, he might be at 5 or 6 yards. He would, take a couple steps back, a couple steps up, and he was always throwing the ball right at 7, 6.5, 7 yards. So let the tackles run the guys wide. Hopefully your centers and guards are stout, and he is throwing at that 7-yard mark. And I think that year in particular, we led the league in the least amount of sacks. I think we gave up 14 sacks that year, and it wasn't because of the O-line. It's because of the quarterback. That ball was out like a hot potato. We were missing guys right and left with various defensive line stunts and twists and everything else. So, yes, the O-line matters with sacks and protections and everything else, but the quarterback getting that ball out also, can help a lot.
I definitely agree. And Carson has said himself that he likes to hold on to the ball till the very, very last second. That sack he took during the Chiefs game actually knocked the Commanders out of field goal range. And it was kind of frustrating because the first team offense hasn't actually put up any points versus first team defense. And we were hoping to finally see that. But Chase Roullier coming back from, I think it was a broken fibula. So he's a starting center, and Leno missed the game this past weekend. You actually had Schweitzer, who's been doing a great job. I think he's played a majority of his time at guard. He's got 56 starts at guard, but actually came in and played 1 game at center last year and has done a great job just because of all the different injuries that have come up. But from a communication perspective, you talk about passing off stunts and just different defensive alignments that you're going up against. How important is it to have that communication with, from a center to a guard perspective? I mean, Roullier calls out blitz packages and where, the line's making a shift. Is that something that you did when you were on the offensive line back then?
Yeah, well, not because I'm partial or anything, but the center, as far as mentally, is definitely the most important piece on the offense. He's calling the protections. He's setting. You have 5 offensive linemen, so you can obviously block 5 guys. In the protections. So he's calling out the middle linebacker, or in some cases, the will linebacker, the weak linebacker, who you're going to pick up in protections. Whether it's a ram or a lion call, an R or an L kind of term to whoever you're blocking. Same thing in the run game. The center sort of sets the scheme for the offensive line, and then the tight ends and fullbacks and everybody else kind of goes off that point. So there's going to be some plays where the center and the offensive line, they're going to go to the first linebacker in the box and maybe give a tight end or back or somebody the second guy. And in some cases, they'll go to the third or the fourth guy. So depending on the protection, depending on the run scheme, the center sets everything. So your center has to be on it mentally. And it's kind of a game of cat and mouse, because a lot of these defenses also will line up in one thing and change to another thing last second. So you already have to anticipate any potential changes of the calls, not to mention offensively, you might change it into a call. So the defense is changing defenses. Offensively, you may have a run pass check or a run check, to get in the best play possible. So you have to not only see what the defense is changing into, you have to be in tune with what your quarterback is changing into. And then also, if there's any special cadence or anything like that that's going on, that also comes into play. So your center will definitely set the stage as far as mentally getting everybody in the right assignments. But your guards and tackles are also big as well. I remember a former teammate of mine, also Evan Mathis. He played left guard for the Eagles for some time, a handful of years ago, and he loved to short set guys in pass protection. And when I say short set, almost simulate run for 2 or 3 steps and then sit right there and, start his protection from there. And that was fine and all, but Peters, the left tackle there, liked a vertical set. So they were never on the same page, because Mathis was like the set on the line. Peters like to set backwards off the ball. So over there, those are definitely two Pro Bowl players, but they were never quite synced up. And then they had a hard time passing off line stunts because they weren't on the same level even. So to that degree, you definitely need to be on the same page with your line mate, your line buddy. Make sure you're sitting at the same level. And then the communication with the center, is the center sliding right? Is the center sliding left? If the center is sliding all the way to the nickel that's outside of the box, then okay, now that your tackle is allowed to overset, because the guard can now help the tackle, and then the center will probably take over the guard's guy. So there's a lot of communication that happens in that front box.
It sounds like it. It really does.
Yeah.
Riley, I know you had something you wanted to hit in there.
So one of the biggest questions that I had was from the time you came into the league until the time that you basically retired, who was the hardest line coach that you worked for? Because I know everybody has their own idea of how you should do it, why you should do it, and when you should do it. Who was the hardest coach that you worked for?
When you say hardest, do you mean hardest on me?
Yes.
I had a bunch of lines. I had about 5 line coaches. I think Coach Joe Bugle, the famous Coach Joe Bugle, he really was hard on me in a good way. I had him in his last couple of years, RIP to Bugle. But I had the tendency sometimes earlier in my career to have wide hands, or in the run blocking, sometimes I would bring my hands from outside to inside when really you want them in the run blocking to come under and up like a forklift. So right now, I'm doing a bunch of high school coaching and youth league coaching, and I'm trying to train my O-linemen, hands under and up like a forklift. Because if you can't bring them outside in, because that defensive lineman is already shooting them in your chest. So you really want to bring them under and up. And Joe Bugle rep that so many times, even when I wasn't supposed to have inside hands, like on field goal protection, when you're supposed to put your hands out, I was like wanting to go inside hands.
Bugle memory, huh?
Bugle, had us doing the drills, not till our hands bled, but every single day we worked hands drills, hands. And, I think that he was hard on us, but in a good way. And when we didn't do it his way, he let us know about it. I mean, there was one Christmas Eve. This was still when Samuels was playing. We didn't do something right. He knocked a projector over. He threw a water bottle against the wall. I mean, I think he was coaching until he was 69 years old. So that guy cared enough, that everybody, was doing it the right way. Even on Christmas Eve, you think some guys may let up and do whatever, but Biggs was still coaching us as hard. And he was coaching us hard authentically because he knew it meant something to him. Where you occasionally have other coaches that kind of treat you like you're running around with the coach's paycheck in their mouth. So they want you to do it the right way so they don't get canned. Bugle at the age of 69, just for the art of the game of football, wanted us to do it the right way.
Wow, that's awesome. The other question I have, and I appreciate you once again, Will, for stopping by to the mess hall. Who was the hardest person that you ever had to block?
There's a few that come to mind. Obviously right off the bat, I want to think about maybe like Ndamukong Suh. I did see Aaron Donald a little bit his rookie year. There was another a little bit before their time. Chris Jenkins was up for defensive MVP in the league, and Chris Jenkins was an interesting story because he was on the Panthers with me my rookie year. So I remember healthy Chris Jenkins before all of his knee surgeries. Then, he had a couple knee surgeries and, but he was still up for the defensive MVP award with the Jets. And then a couple of years later, I'm with the Redskins, he's with the Jets, and I meet up against Chris Jenkins in the preseason game. I'm like, oh man, this is interesting. He sort of baptized me my rookie year going in there to Carolina. And then I'm facing him again in a preseason game, but that was fun. And also another special guy was Julius Peppers. Thankfully, I didn't have to block him a whole lot, but he was another guy that my rookie year was on that Panthers team. So that Panthers team, my rookie year was loaded with Chris Jenkins, Julius Peppers, there's Mike Rucker, Make Kemiotu, who Make also had a stint here in Washington. And then I ended up facing all those guys again on different teams. Fast forward to my 10th year in the NFL, I'm with the Chicago Bears, and we're playing against the Green Bay Packers. It's a 3rd and long, and the Green Bay lines up in a 3-man defensive front. Who's over the zero nose? Julius Peppers. I'm thinking to myself, man, this is deja vu. I've had to battle Chris Jenkins. I've had to battle Make Kemiotu, and then Julius Peppers is lined up right over top of me. It is a zero nose. I have 10 years of memories of him, but he tried to hit me with a chop hump move where he tried to chop my hand and then use my momentum and club me across. And I sat on it and I blocked it. And then mid play, he's like, okay, Monty, we're good. We're good. Almost like he was shutting it down mid play just because his initial move didn't work. But it's fun blocking all those guys. And there's a lot more of them out there, but those are some of the names that hit my brain right off the top.
Awesome. I appreciate
That's awesome,
it.
Will. And we're joined once again by Will Montgomery, former Washington Redskins center, played in the league for 10 years. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on with us here in the mess hall. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the 2012 season. Really one of the most fun seasons we have had as fans, just memory-wise. I mean, what was it like being there in the midst of, the RG3 year? What was it like blocking for a player like Robert, not knowing exactly what he was going to do in that pocket or where he was going to be? You talked about Peyton Manning knowing that at 7 yards, he was going to get rid of that ball, but Robert scrambling around and trying to make something out of nothing at times. How nerve-wracking is that from a lineman's perspective?
Well, there's pros and cons to each of those. We mentioned the Peyton Manning getting rid of the ball. Some of those sacks Peyton did take, was taking knee dives before the sack even got there just to preserve his own health. So we're kind of scratching our heads, not too often, but occasionally we're like, well, okay. But on the flip side, Robert has the ability to extend the play. Occasionally if you get beat or something like that, he would be able to make the off schedule play. There's obviously the famous scramble in the Minnesota game when he ran for 70 yards. There's a couple other plays that come to mind. When the screenplay, this one is a big one for mobile quarterbacks versus non-mobile quarterbacks. So occasionally the defensive line will sniff out a screen and you can't really throw the ball away because it would be illegal man downfield. So your choices are to eat like a 10-yard sack, or if you do throw it, it's going to be illegal man downfield. And occasionally he would bail us out for dead screenplay just by scrambling and getting the 10 yards himself. No, but that, like you said, that was definitely a fun season. I think we led the league also that year in yards per play. It was like 12 yards per play per average. And then another guy on that team that year was Alfred Morris. He was the number 2 leading rusher in the NFL that year behind Adrian Peterson. So to get a guy like Alfred Morris, whatever it is, over, I think it was like at least 1,600 yards. It was over 100 yards a game average, I believe. What we were doing that season, which I think works in the NFL today, as of all of the assistant coaches who are now head coaches. If you kind of look at the Green Bay Packers to a degree, if you look at the Rams, you look at Miami Dolphins, you look at some of these coaches, what do they all have in common? They have assistants who were from that 2012 Redskins team. You kind of run the ball, you do a little play action. And I know we mentioned the offensive line earlier in this podcast. Pass protection is hard, right? I don't care who you are. If you're going backwards and they're going forwards, it's hard advantage defensive line. So sort of what that Shanahan scheme-esque helps the offensive line is we run a lot. We run, 50% or more, which is, in the NFL passing league, essentially, everybody's throwing the ball 60, 70% of the time. So if you can at least get the 50-50 or maybe slightly more than 50-50 run the pass, you're helping out the O-line. And then your deep shot plays are your play action passes, your bootlegs, your sprint passes. These are all types of passes that take the stress off the offensive line, and they allow the quarterback time to set up. So that's also gives you those big chunk plays. So then when you think about it, you really only have 5 or 10, I want to call it hard plays a game. Those are your hard third and longs. When you get these Jackie Chan hands, these defensive linemen, it's like throwing your hands in the shredder when they're doing their hand chops and everything else, and the twist stunts and the exotic blitzes. That's hard. That is tough football. That's not fun. If you're going to lose sleep as an offensive lineman, it's picking up third and long stunts. So, no doubt Robert was able to help us out a little bit when we missed something. And then also, the Shanahan scheme helps out is offensive lineman friendly because they run a lot of bootlegs, a lot of play action. But that was a fun season for sure.
No, I've got a lot of great memories. I know Rally does as well, and it sounds like you do also. Well, Will, I want to thank you for joining us on here. We'd love to have you back on again down the road. Is there anything that you'd want to pub while you're on with us?
Nothing too much. I just want to give my wife a shout out. She does finishing up her master's and just got hired as a school counselor here at Independence High School. So and then I have my daughter is going into second grade. My son's going into kindergarten, and I'm going to be assistant flag football coach with my son's flag football team. I'm doing the Uber driver, taking my daughter to soccer and swim and gymnastics, and helping out with the Independence High School here, coaching ball and doing some things like that. So, just kind of enjoying life and trying to keep that football in my blood.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that's great, man.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on.
All right, thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.
Really appreciate Will taking the time to join Rally and I in the mess hall. Man, I miss seeing him at Fox 5 in the morning, but I don't miss waking up at 5:30 in the morning on a game day to get to the TV station. And there's a story I'll tell you and listeners another time after the Nats won the World Series, and how I showed up to the TV station hungover and basically still smelling like alcohol because I partied with the Nats at the parade that night. But jumping into the last bit of it, Chase Young was moved to the reserve pup list. So for those fans that don't know, that means he's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks of the season. And you and I are on record saying, we don't care. We want him back when he's 100%. I'd say 150%.
Yep.
So I'm good with it. He's not taking up a roster spot. More importantly, in my eyes, he's not putting unneeded pressure on himself to be all in for week one. Screw this no pressure, no diamonds crap. Let him get healthy and be there now, week 5 at the earliest. Curious what you think.
I don't see week 5. I see probably week 8, bro. To be honest with you, week 9
Really?
at week 9 at the latest. That's once again, that's rally captain. That's not Dr. Andrews, or that's not the supporting staff that the Commanders have. That's just rally captain. Week 9, week 8, and let him eat. Now, if by chance he pulls a Logan Thomas on us and says, the doctors say, hey, this kid is above and beyond where we thought he would be, he's ready to go, then I'll have to take their word for it. But right now, just to be on the safe side, the cautious side, I say week 8, week 9, and then let that dog out the cage and go hunt.
I'm hoping it's before week 8 and week 9, but I am excited because when I was out of training camp, I ended up putting a couple over-unders in. One was on Chase Young. I took the under at 8.5 sacks. So I doubt he's going to get to 8 sacks. He had 1.5 last year in all the games he played. And when he does come back, I think he's going to be on a pitch count, just like Rouye was this past week. He's only going to get so many snaps. And I also took the Antonio Gibson under, which I think was 900 or maybe 800 yards. So we might be moving up from Sizzler to like a Ruth Chris if I hit both of these. I'm just putting that out there. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, and I don't want it to happen. The junkies call it an emotional hedge, where you don't think your team is going to win, but you'll be happy if they do. But just in case, you put money on the opposite team to beat you.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's kind of a win-win either way.
Yeah.
My heart wants Chase to get 15 sacks. My heart wants Booger McFarland to be right that Chase gets 20. Booger's crazy. It ain't going to happen. But my stomach, and more importantly, me wanting to go to that steakhouse, thinks it's going to be less than that. And I'm just glad to hear that they have a plan. The plan for Curtis Samuel has worked out. I'm knocking on wood right now. Things are good.
Knock on wood, bro.
The plan for Logan Thomas is working out. So maybe this new training staff, the plan that they have for Chase, maybe it'll work out. So we'll see how it goes.
Your fingers and toes are crossed? Is that what you're telling me?
They're crossed. They're crossed. Or I could just be drinking too much and maybe, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. But speaking of drinking too much, Commander's Twitter pisses me off, man. it drives me insane. And I love everybody's passion, but the passion people have for some of the stupidest, dumbest things, it blew my mind. And I had to stop looking at it before you and I got on the show, because it put me just in a bad mood. And those that don't know, ESPN Southwest Florida, which I didn't know was a thing, wrote an article about the beer price for every NFL stadium. And the Commanders went viral for their beer price. Well, what a lot of fans don't know is other stadiums have smaller beers. And this article was in regards to a small 12-ounce draft beer, or the smallest beer at that stadium, and had the average prices. The Commanders' price was $16. What the article doesn't get into was that is $16 for a 24-ounce beer. Those that don't know, a beer is typically 12 ounces. So you are paying $8 for a 12-ounce beer, but guess what? You're getting 2 of them because they don't sell smaller beers.
So you're talking about the tall boys. Is that what they call them, the tall boys?
They call them king cans. I call them tall boys.
Okay.
So it's $18 for a import beer. So if you're talking Stella or you're talking something else, Heineken, it's $18. If you're talking a 24-ounce Miller Lite, something domestic, it's $16. But it's 2 freaking beers. And then you've got all these people going on Twitter yelling and screaming about how the Commanders are ripping us off, this and that. But if you look in that article and you go further, the Raiders charge $9, the Steelers charge $9.25, the Cowboys charge $9.50, and we're talking for 12 ounces. So if you just start breaking it down, we're not the most expensive, but then you have people like Fox 5. I'm not trying to knock them because I'm hoping they get me back on the air this year, but they decided to blow it up last night on their TV show, calling the Commanders out, saying how they've got the most inexpensive. No, ESPN has the most inept reporter getting the details wrong. And people started getting into me because I sent a picture to the junkies because they just wanted to know what it cost. Mm-hmm. A bottle of water is $6 or $3 if you have Washington Gold. People were bitching about bottles of water. If you go to an airport and you go to Hudson News, a bottle of water is going to cost you $5. Then I got people yelling and screaming that a bottle of water should cost $0.25. I wanted to tell all those people to just F off, man.
You see, that's the thing about Twitter, man. You know as well as I do that you just can't let that get to you, bro. Because otherwise, it will. Because like you,
it has.
Yeah, man. And people, they call me all kinds of names, and we're not gonna even get into it. But the fact is, okay, I just tell them, hey, look, man, get off my job. All right, get off my job. So leave it alone. But the thing, like you said, is this: if you're going to report a story, report all of it. Don't just do it for clicks. And that's what obviously this was about, to get your heart rate up versus telling the whole story.
I am all for calling out this team if they do wrong. You know that. Our listeners know that. People that follow me on social media know that. I will also defend them till the day I die when people inaccurately accuse them of things. And this is just an inaccurate portrayal of them being the devil. They do bad things at times. They get things wrong. Just look at the training camp lottery. We call them out on them. They've done things wrong. But stop trying to find any excuse in the book to take this team down a peg. We don't need to do that as a fan base. We're already on the bottom rung. Let's build them up for a change and commend them on some of the things they're doing right. And I'm hoping to talk about more of those things as the year goes on. But for those that have joined us and made it this far, I don't know you a beer, because that's what my boy JP Finley says, but I'm hoping to see you at a tailgate and crack open a beer with you coming up week 1 versus Jags.
And I can't wait to see you there, bro, because you know I'm going to stop by and say what's up to you and give you a toast, bro.
Amen, man. And we can definitely use it after this offseason we've had. So thank you guys for jumping on with us. This is episode 13 of the Mess Hall. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, leave a review. You can also leave us a voicemail that we'll play on the show. So appreciate you guys hanging in there.
And once again, everybody, rip it hard but don't rep it at all. It's Tailgate Ted, the rally captain, and we are going to be out.